Welcome back to Get Down to Business, the show all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. I've been super excited for this conversation. I'm joined by Leif Hartwig, the CEO of Wealth VP, a company that helps match private investors with quality founders. He draws on over 30 years of experience in the software, startups, and financial service industries. And I'm super excited, as I said, to be joined by Leif Hartwig. Leif, welcome to the program. Thanks so much for joining us. The best place to start is actually in the very, very beginning. And I'm curious to learn a little bit about your background and how you caught that entrepreneurial bug.
Wow, it started a long time ago. I've spent decades in the financial services industry. Began my career way back in the 80s, where I was an investment advisor, then moved on to become a business coach in the industry all over the US and Canada, primarily teaching very high-end investment advisors and insurance agents, and then moved on as my career continued with a software company that continued that growth, and then today in Wealth VP.
Fantastic. So let's talk about the industry right now. Let's talk about how companies are getting funded. We're having this conversation in just about mid-2023. You've, as you said, been doing this for a while. How are companies getting funded this year? What are some of the trends that you're seeing?
Wow, the industry is in a mess right now. What we found is this middle marketplace that where most of these private companies get funded are all word of mouth. There was 5 million new startups last year, believe it or not, and $2.5 trillion going into this marketplace. However, it's not digitized at all. So it's very difficult for founders to find money. And so when they do, typically in seed rounds, they'll go out with family and friends and others. But you can also imagine that these founders are brilliant in the areas in which they're launching their companies and their products, but they really don't know how to raise money. So their pitch decks are very, how can I say it, not well done. And then their close rates, I've heard that BlackRock, the big monster PE firm, gets about a 30% close rate. So you can imagine that companies themselves are less than 10%.
So again, I'm chatting with Leif Hartwig from Wealth VP. He's been doing this for quite a while, and it certainly has watched the trends of watching private investors get matched with quality founders. So we've been chatting about how companies are getting funded. I got one more question for you, Leif, before we talk about from the investment side. But what do those founders need to have in order to stand out and be better than all the rest?
Well, number one, when investors look at companies, they want to invest in great management. And so if they don't have much experience themselves, they need to get an advisory board to do that. Then they need to prepare their materials, a pitch deck. And I would just suggest going to the internet, because there's a certain order in which that's supposed to be done, and most kind of screw that up. So those would be the two top things that they need to be doing is surrounding themselves with great people, and also having a presentation that's really acceptable to the investor that's looking for investments like this.
Okay, and one more question on the investor side, and then we're going to talk a little bit about Wealth VP. As an investor, how would you review a company before you invest and before you fund that amazing next best thing on earth?
I look for 3 things in companies that I would call investable companies, and most of them are not. So I'm a little Darwinian in that sense. Number one, they should be in revenues, which means they have more than an idea, right? That they are actually selling something. Number two, that they're raising enough money to have runway, because investors don't want you to run out of money and they'll lose all their money as well. So that's typically 18 months of your burn rate or of your monthly expenses. And then lastly, I look for seasoned management that's either had exits or has come from the industry at a high level. In other words, the product they're launching is something they really know, and they know the marketplace. But those would be my 3 qualifications.
Awesome. Again, I'm chatting with Leif Hartwig from Wealth VP. Leif, we only have about a minute remaining. I want to understand, again, what you and your team are doing at Wealth VP, and of course, how we can get in touch with you.
Well, what we're doing is we're setting out to digitize this huge industry because it hasn't been done. So one of my big investment advisors says, I get it. You're like Match.com meets Shark Tank. And I said, yeah, that's pretty much it. We connect people via software product that matches different fields, whether you're in ed tech or med tech on the company side. So really two marketplaces, right? That matches those worthy companies that need investments with those investors that are really ultra high net worth. Because if you're raising $1 million or more, it's hard to do it at $10,000 per investor. So we look for those high net worth investors, typically with $25 million or more of assets under management.
Awesome.
And we match them together.
Fantastic, Leif. That's amazing. I know our listeners will want to get in touch with you because you post a lot of great content, a lot of great information, and can be a resource for so many of our listeners. What's the best way for us to get in contact?
The best way to get in contact is through our website. That is Wealth VP, Wealth Victor Paul. It stands for Wealth Venture Partners. So wealthvp.com. And if you want to get to me directly, which I love people to do, it's Leif, Leif, at wealthvp.com.
Leif Hartwig, thank you so much for joining us on Get Down to Business. We'll post all this information in the show notes. But until then, Get Down to Business. We'll be right back. Don't touch that dial. You're listening to the show all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship.